Hi, Kristi Kane here from ElderCircle Forum, and I'm with Cathy Berendts today from the tax-aide program. Join me later as we talk with Cathy about how tax-aide is available for everyone of every age. Is that correct, Cathy?
That's true. I think sometimes because we see AARP in the title of our program, people have the misconception that it might be just for AARP members or people that are 55 or older, when in fact we serve individuals and families of all ages and all backgrounds.
Excellent. I'm excited to hear more about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, welcome to ElderCircle Forum. Kristi Kane here, Executive Director at ElderCircle. At ElderCircle, we link our aging community members to programs, services, and volunteer activities to keep them active, independent, and in their own homes longer. My guest today is Cathy Berendts. Cathy is a volunteer tax preparer for the AARP Foundation tax program. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Awesome. Thanks for being with us today, Cathy.
My pleasure.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my parents grew up in the Marble, Coleraine, Bovey area, and as children they brought us back to this area up north to the cabin every year, and so I've always had a fondness for the area. As an adult, I worked as an oncology nurse in Minneapolis, Rochester, New York, Fort Worth.
All over the place.
All over the place, but about 20 years ago came back to Duluth to be the administrator of the cancer program for Essentia Health.
Okay.
I retired from that position 3 years ago, and I spend the majority of my time in the this community now.
Okay. So tax preparing, a little bit different than the career you followed most of your life?
A bit different, but in some ways a little bit similar also. Okay. The skills of doing budgets and paying attention to numbers, solving problems, are skills that carry over from my work life into my volunteer life as a tax preparer.
Okay. Do you volunteer with other programs as well?
I do some volunteer work with Honoring Choices, okay, which is a little bit more closely aligned with what I did in my work life. But I find the tax preparation work to be the most enjoyable volunteer work that I do.
I think when we were visiting a little bit earlier, you told me one of the reasons that you continue to be a tax-aide volunteer, or one of the things that maybe piqued your interest the most, was seeing what people are living off of these days and the type of income that people are making work.
It was, this is my second year as a tax preparer, and it was humbling. And I appreciate greatly the challenges that individuals and families face to live on what their income level is. And anything that we can do as part of ElderCircle or the AARP Tax Foundation is a rewarding kind of thing to do for individuals in this situation.
Absolutely. Now, we're talking about the AARP Foundation, and can you explain for our viewers the correlation between AARP Foundation and AARP?
As I understand it, the AARP Foundation is a service arm of the overall parent organization of AARP. But as a program in this community and in this state, we are aligned with the AARP Foundation. and they support us with grants to help us provide the service that we do, although everyone that works on the program here is a volunteer. But we do need computers, we do need printers, we do need paper for those, all of those things. And both the AARP Foundation and ElderCircle RSVP here in Grand Rapids help support us with those kinds of hardware and supply kinds of things. AARP also works with, the foundation works with the Internal Revenue Service and the Minnesota Department of Revenue to provide training to each of the volunteers annually, and we become certified through the Internal Revenue Service to be a volunteer tax aid preparer. Yeah,
tell me a little bit more about that. I know ElderCircle's main role is to support the volunteers locally, and I think that AARP Foundation does a fantastic job training volunteers. Can you just expand on that a little bit?
Yes, it's an amazing organization. There are more than 35,000 volunteers. I believe that's the number. It's either 5,000 or 35,000 volunteer tax preparers. And each year we each have 1 week of training, and then we have certification exams at the end of that training to ensure that we're competent to do the tax returns of the clients that come in to see us. And they've been very supportive in that. They are very helpful in bringing us changes that have happened since the last tax year to this tax year, and implications of those changes as we carry out and do a tax return for a client.
So I know that there's more than one type or more than one way to volunteer. You can do a front desk type of reception, a greeter, and you're busy. Tax-aide is available, you know, for a short season every year, but
intense season.
Yeah, but an intense season. And so you need several people to carry this out. So receptionists and tax preparers. And what kind of skills or background are you looking for in those volunteers?
I think even before I answer that question, there are a couple of other positions that are extremely important for us.
Okay.
Lloyd Adams is the district coordinator for the County of Itasca, and Jim Merrily is the site coordinator for our program here in Grand Rapids. And both of those individuals are tax preparers, but take on these leadership roles in addition to that. And they start back in November preparing for the tax season that we're just about to get underway. But the main jobs, you're right, are the receptionist greeters who basically keep the day running smoothly. and that's a huge endeavor, because we don't accept appointments. We first come, first serve, and they do a marvelous job ensuring that we stay on track. And they also are very helpful in, let's say for example, we have 40 people in the waiting room at 8:15 or 8:30. They help people say, you're not going to lose your place in line. If you want to go for lunch or go home, run some errands, do some shopping, I think it'll be about 1 o'clock when your appointment will come due. So the skill set for that is the ability to work well with people, to organize, sort of anticipate what the day is going to be like.
A little bit of hospitality.
A lot of hospitality. And keeping an eye on everything that's going on. The tax preparers, I think the skill set for a tax preparer includes some computer skills. You know, taxes are done on computers these days.
And you file electronically.
We file electronically. So coming in with some computer skills is helpful to have. In addition, an attention to detail, but definitely do not need to have any tax preparation background.
Okay.
Of the volunteers that we have a nurse, that would be me. We have several gentlemen who worked for the Forest Service.
Oh, sure.
We have a scientist. We have self-employed businessmen. We do have a couple of women who have worked in the tax field.
Okay.
And we are a wide variety of people, and I think for those people who might be considering this as a volunteer opportunity, one of the things that's been very helpful for me has been the camaraderie of the group of the tax preparers.
Great, you spend a lot of time with each other.
We spend a lot of time with each other, and I have to say everyone is open to questions, and when we learn something new, teaching other people in our group.
Wonderful.
So it's a very comfortable kind of learning and working experience.
Now, you mentioned earlier that Lloyd was oversaw the district of Itasca County. So the tax preparation that you do is for Itasca County residents?
Yes, although we don't pay a lot of close attention to that.
Okay, so there's no governing rules or boundaries?
No.
And you, last year, our AARP tax-aide locally had a new location. And can you tell me about that? Where are you located? Where are you doing taxes right now?
This year we are doing them at the Grand Rapids Airport Terminal building.
Okay.
We were also there last year. Prior to that, we've been in the mall and in the courthouse. And I think in addition to the support from AARP Foundation and ElderCircle, we appreciate the support of the community in helping finding us space that we use for only 3 months of the year.
Right.
And so that is much appreciated, and it helps make this program available in this community.
And what does it look like for a typical consumer when they come to get their taxes done? You'd mentioned it's first come, first serve. I know there's ample parking there.
There is ample parking. Typically we ask clients to bring in their photo ID, their Social Security card, not only their own personal one, but the Social Security card for any dependent that's going to be on the return. And when they, of course, all of their tax, their W-2s, any 1099-Rs, or their mortgage statements, that type of thing. But when they come in the door, they'd be greeted by one of the receptionists, and they'd be asked to fill out an interview sheet that helps organize information for the tax preparer.
Okay.
And once they have that filled out, they'll bring that interview sheet to the tax preparer. We'll sit down. We'll ask some additional questions that the interview sheet might stimulate a discussion on, and then we'll go ahead and do the tax return.
Okay.
With the client sitting there watching us and asking questions or offering additional information throughout the process. When we finish the tax return, we'll review it with the client, and then we take that tax return to one of our colleagues, another tax preparer, and they go over it a second time.
Oh, that's reassuring. So
And
there's always a second set of eyes.
Always a second set of eyes. When we're in that process, we call it a quality review. We're not only looking for typos or a number that got inverted, but we're looking to make sure that the client is getting the maximum amount of refund that they are entitled to. And once that review is done, we have the client basically sign a form that says they agree with the information that's on the tax return, and then we electronically file that.
Okay.
And both the IRS and the Minnesota Department of Revenue encourage people to get their refunds electronically
Right.
if they have a checking or a savings account. So that's another important thing for a client to bring in, would be that routing and account number information.
Okay.
They'll get a faster return.
So you can get
Doing
that
it that
right
way.
off of your
Check blank.
Yep. Okay.
Or if it's a savings account, most clients would have a little card with that information, with their account number on it.
Now, earlier we were talking about the types of clients that AARP will serve, and why don't you tell me a little bit more about that? It's not just for our aging community members.
Right. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that a little bit, because with AARP Foundation in the title,
Right.
I think there's a misconception that you have to be over 55 and or a member of AARP. Neither one of those are true. You can be any age, any background, and we focus, our target audience for clients are low and moderate income individuals. And as we talked a little bit before we started taping, both the Internal Revenue Service and the Minnesota Department of Revenue are really reaching out and want to encourage young families
Right.
who might be eligible for the Earned Income Credit to come in. And these would typically be families who have a relatively low income, and may not even meet the requirements that they have to file a tax return.
Sure.
But it could be a huge benefit in their favor to come in and file that return, because they might be eligible for the Earned Income Credit and the Working Family Credit, which is the Minnesota equivalent.
On the flip side of that, I do know some aging community members who have not worked in years and have a lower amount of Social Security, and sometimes think, well, I don't need to file, I don't qualify. But if they are renting, they should still come in. Is that correct?
They should still come in, because they can take advantage of the rent credit.
Okay.
And that's oftentimes a nice little return.
Right.
It doesn't come until late summer, early fall, but not a bad time to get a check from the government.
That's right. Yeah. So
also, they may own their own home, and so they may be eligible for a property tax refund. So not only the renter's credit, but they may be eligible for a property tax refund also.
So the best thing is, if you're in question,
Right.
come in and check it out.
Come in and check it out.
And
Yes.
is that something the front desk reception person would be able to give people guidance on when they fill out their form, or?
No, that would be something that the tax preparer
Okay.
would actually answer that question. And we try and get to those quickly, so if it's not in somebody's best interest to file the tax return, you're not going to sit there all day waiting for an
Right.
appointment
Okay.
to do that. I think another good thing is if they'd been in last year and asked that question, and it was determined that they didn't need to file, and nothing has changed this year, then they probably don't need to come back in and ask that question again, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Absolutely. Now, each year, you do this every year, or AARP does this every year, and each year the window is short.
Yes.
So what is the time span that people need to be getting their taxes taken care of?
Well, I think, as everybody knows, April 15th is the deadline. And we start annually February, starting the first day of February, the first Monday
Working
of
day.
February. And we go through the middle of April, up until April 15th. If 15th is on a Saturday, we don't come in on the Saturday
So
at
Friday.
the 15th.
Okay.
Okay. So it might be that we stop a couple of days in advance of the 15th, but basically for 2.5 months, February, March, and the first half of April.
Okay. So in terms of volunteer opportunity, it's a big commitment for a short time.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But I also want to stress, and Lloyd and Jim have been very good about this, that these are volunteer positions, and you volunteer the work, the hours you want to work.
Okay.
And there is no pressure.
So you are not committed to being there every single day of tax season?
You are not committed to being there every day for tax season. You know, obviously many people who are retired and serve as volunteers, it's prime time to go south for a couple of weeks.
Sure.
And we have volunteer tax preparers who do that. So it is a volunteer position. You sign up when you want to sign up.
Okay, that's fantastic. So the volunteer could be there every day or one day during the season and would have the same training and the same opportunities as the rest.
Yes.
And I think it's reassuring to me to know that the volunteer tax preparers and the reception folks, everybody involved in the program, take an ethics test as well.
That's not only take the ethics test, but it is a focus of our training. Recognizing the sanctity of somebody's data.
Right.
Ensuring that it is treated respectfully, not shared outside of the tax preparer-client relationship. Everything's done electronically. We keep no paper records, and the ethics part of it is a focus of the training.
So I think that's fantastic to know, because sometimes people think volunteers are doing this, it's not professional, my data might not be private, but that is highly stressed by AARP, and the training is significant. And
by the Internal Revenue Service and the Minnesota Department of Revenue. All three of those organizations put a very high priority on this.
Excellent.
And we have to sign our volunteer agreement lists out all of the standards of conduct that we have to agree to prior to being a volunteer.
Okay, so Cathy, if people locally in Itasca County or surrounding area want to know where to get their taxes done, where can they call? How can they get that information on an annual basis?
Well, during the time that we're actually preparing returns, we have a telephone, and they could call us directly.
Okay.
That number is, I don't have it in my head, 218-451-9848.
Okay.
And that's only during the office hours that we're actually preparing.
February 1st through
April.
Okay.
And ElderCircle would be another very good resource. They're not going to be able to answer a specific tax question, but they are going to be able to tell you where we're located, what are the hours of our service, and various other information like that.
And we can sign you up to be a volunteer.
And that's right. Thank you for mentioning that. Most of our volunteers do come through ElderCircle RSVP, and we appreciate that resource very, very much.
Well, we appreciate having the AARP resource in the community. I know that sometimes in the past you've also done things in other locations for maybe assisted livings, or is that something that is available for you to do again?
That is, and I just got a letter that I'm sending out to, I think, 44 senior living and assisted living facilities. And in order to justify volunteer time, we need to have a certain number of clients in a facility in order for us to go to them. But we definitely are interested in doing that and in communicating with larger facilities who could give us a large enough volume to make it worth.
And at the location that you're currently using, there is bus service, is that correct? the bus stops
Good question. I don't know.
You don't, I think that, I believe that they do.
Good.
That might be something we should both check on.
We should probably both check on. And I would guess Arrowhead Transit would also be helpful with transportation too.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I know that I was surprised at the amount of stuff because we stored some things for a period of time. I was amazed at the amount of stuff that AARP tax-aide has, and with no real location to, you know, kind of call
Right.
home throughout the year. I know it floats around to different volunteers or maybe secure places that the city will store things, but every tax preparer has a computer and a printer
Right.
and an adding machine, or so in paper, and there was a lot of
Yes,
inventory.
there is a lot.
So I can see where setting a mobile site up at multiple locations takes a great
Yeah.
deal of effort.
Yeah, it's and remember too, every site, whether you're going to an assisted living facility or you're another semi-permanent site like we are here in Grand Rapids, you have to have a minimum of 3 people. You have to have the
sure.
greeter receptionist, and you have to have 2 tax preparers so that they can do the quality review
Okay.
on a tax return. And so it becomes part of the equation of, can those 2 tax preparers serve 20 people in the main site or 7
Right.
over here?
Sure, absolutely.
And so we have to weigh where we're going to disperse our resources.
So some hard decisions.
There are some
Yeah.
difficult decisions
Yeah.
on doing that, because as much as you want to be out there,
And we're a large county.
and we are a
spread out.
very large county.
Yes. Well, excellent. Kathy, can you think of anything else that our viewers might need to know about the tax-aide program and AARP Foundation?
No, I think just to reiterate that if you're interested in being a volunteer, we generally we start looking for the tax preparer volunteers in the fall,
Okay.
because the training takes place just prior to tax season in January.
So you're fresh, I'm sure.
So, right, absolutely. And encourage people to explore it as a volunteer opportunity. We are always happy to let somebody come in and work with us for a little while and see if it might be something that they're interested in. And then I think the other thing is just to reiterate that although we've been around for many years,
Right.
and many people in the community are aware of us, there are some who we believe would benefit from our services that aren't available, and that's why we appreciate an opportunity like this to share some of our information. We did over 1,000 tax returns last year,
That's incredible.
and we'd like to do 1,200 this year. So,
And you're equipped to do it.
and we're equipped to do it,
Yeah,
and we're
wonderful.
equipped to do it. So
Wonderful.
we
Yes.
invite people to come in and check us out.
Well, good. Well, thank you so much, Kathy. Appreciate the opportunity for you to come in and enlighten us on the tax-aide program and for all that you do to
Well,
volunteer for that program.
it's a
pretty
pleasure.
incredible. And you guys seem like a great, fun crew to be
It
around.
is a very good group to work with.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you.